Representative Mike Johnson plans to launch House Speaker bid if Jim Jordan falters. NBC News. Mike Johnson of Louisiana is laying the groundwork to seek the Speaker's gavel if Rep. Jim Jordan is unable to get the votes needed on the House floor. Below are your comments. They need someone who understands that they are only barely over half of the legislative branch of government, which is only 1/3 of our government. Refusing to compromise is what's led to utter dysfunction of our government. MAGA Republicans don't grasp that notion. Jordan can't even identify with the same circle of hard right Republicans stepping forward. Does anyone really think the outcome will be any better? They're all cast from the same mold, and the same reservations held by the rest of the caucus will apply. Jordan is unfit. Remember, he asked Trump for a pardon. Where there is smoke, there is usually fire. If he is Speaker, he will do everything to stop prosecutions of Trump because Trump is his only hope not to be held accountable. Jim is the elected Republican conference nominee, arguably our best-known conservative champion and a trusted friend and brother to me. Anyone who has this to say about Jim Jordan cannot be good for he country. This is what happens when you let the extremists in your party take control. A lot of people didn't approve of Ms. Pelosi, but she kept the progressives at arm's length and controlled her party. Perhaps Mr. Jordan and his supporters are the real Renos. It's a shame what's happened to the GOP since. Next news. Hunter Biden investigations lead to ethical concerns about President Biden, an AP NORC poll shows. Associated Press. Ethical concerns are casting a shadow over President Joe Biden as he seeks re-election amid investigations into his son Hunter and an impeachment inquiry, with a poll showing that 35% of U.S. adults believe the president himself has done something illegal. House Republicans have launched an impeachment inquiry into Biden, seeking to tie the president to foreign business dealings of his 53-year-old son. Hunter Biden is facing a separate criminal indictment by a special counsel after a plea deal. Below are your comments. Let's see the bank records and then decide Joe's future. If people used actual facts to form their opinions instead of propaganda, Biden would have higher new MBERS. Unemployment is the lowest in decades. New job creation is the highest ever in a 3-year time period. Inflation was high, but now it's at a normal level. Gas is down and oil production is the high. On May 10, House Republicans investigating the Biden family's business dealings shared select bank records. The records show that Biden family members received more than $10 million from foreign companies during and after President Joe Biden's earlier vice presidency. PolitiFact. It seems voters have selective memory when it comes to the economy under Trump. Republicans bashed Obama's economy but praised the economy that Trump inherited from Obama. Next news. Ukraine and Israel share a horrific bond, but many Republicans say only one needs help now. HuffPost. When it comes to Ukraine, many in the GOP demand that help be tied to a win on border security. Below are your comments. I believe Ukraine needs more help than Israel. Israel has a very strong military, and unless others join the Hamas, Israel should be able to handle the situation on their own. They did win the war in the 60s. Ukraine, on the other hand, has a much larger foe with backing from North Korea and PR. If Trump won another building with his name on it, left him build Trump Tower Gaza City. Trump Tower Moscow isn't happening. Our support for Ukraine is the bargain of the decade. For 5 to 10% of our annual defense budget, we've helped them degrade half of Russia's military strength. As well as getting rid of old weapons stocks and avoiding U.S. casualties. Of course, MAGAs and Putin don't want this, being on the wrong side of. Trump blabbed Israeli intel to the Russians. Not our intel, the secrets of Israel, not his to declassify. Russia is an ally of Iran, and gets weapons from Iran that Putin is using to bomb Ukraine. Same with Hamas. Russia plus Iran plus Hamas plus Hezbollah against Ukraine and Israel are allies. Trump stole our military battle plans against Iran from the WH, and has a history of blabbing intel to Russia. Did that include those battle plans, which Russia then gave to Iran? Likely. Trump is a national security threat. Next news. Israel-Gaza conflict proves treacherous ground for U.S. politicians. BBC. Turbulence caused by the fighting in the Middle East could upend the 2024 presidential race. Below are your comments. At a rally in West Palm Beach, Florida, on Wednesday, Donald Trump was having some trouble with his microphone not projecting well enough, and he seemed to dwell on the topic with comments like, "This is the worst microphone I think I've ever had. Justin, don't pay the bill for this mic." Republicans are the party that says that government doesn't work, and then they get elected and pro-it. PJ. In the midst of multiple international flashpoints, Israel, Hamas, Ukraine, Russia, and Taiwan, China, members of the GQP hold up hundreds of military promotions and reassignment. The big question that no one seems ready to answer is, why are all the media resources giving Donnie so much free publicity if they really think he's a jeer to democracy? If you all stopped feeding him what he wants so much of, then maybe he will become secondhand news sooner. Trump always seems to side with the brutal oppressors and bleepers. He sides with Russia. He sided with ISIS and so cut and run, abandoning our Kurdish allies. He sided with the Taliban, and released 1,000s of terrorists from prison, who then bombed our remaining troops. Now he sides with Hezbollah. Next news. North Dakota Governor Doug Burgum asks voters for a chance in New Hampshire. 5 things to know. USA Today. Doug Burgum is among the least known of the many long-shot candidates vying to be the Republican nominee in the 2024 presidential race. Below are your comments. Burgum actually makes a lot of sense. Too bad he didn't get much airtime in the debates, which did not serve voters well. Dana Perino in the second debate was especially and egregiously rude toward him. She should never moderate another debate. Voters in New Hampshire, as well as every other primary state, will give him a chance, all right. A chance to make a gracious concession speech as he's left in the dust by the ex-deplorable-in-chief. Who will be Republicans' nominee? Taking down candidates up and down the ballot with him. I would like to see it down to 4 and go from there. Those with no chance are just mucking up the process and keeping the others from getting their message out. Burgum should do well in New Hampshire. Both states are small, overwhelmingly white, elderly, and conservative. Neither of which is representative of the U.S. as a whole. The last thing the country needs is another privileged billionaire in the White House. They haven't a clue as to what is important to middle and lower class Americans. What they do know is they want to keep lining their pockets without actually working. Next news. Idaho bill restricting trans students' restroom use can take effect. Judge. Reuters. A federal judge has allowed an Idaho law requiring public school students to use the bathroom corresponding to their assigned sex at birth to take effect, while also allowing a challenge to the law by the family of a transgender student to continue. U.S. District Judge David Nye found on Thursday that his court is not a policy-making body and must defer to the state's legislature, at least for now. Nye, who was appointed by Republican former President Donald Trump, had in August. Below are your comments. I guess all these unisex bathroom voices are males. For sure females do not want males in their bath rooms at all. Do the ladies have a right in this discussion? How do their rights get overrun by 1 or 2 trans people? We live in a majority rules society, but we have protections for minorities. Just put a unisex bathroom in. Just a one-person whatever gender bathroom in schools. Just do it to stop the whining from confused teenagers. Amazing we survived 200+ years without knowing how vital this is. Adult thinking would be a unisex one-person bathroom. I don't know about others, but when I go into a public ladies' bathroom I enter a stall and close the door. No one in the common area of the bathroom has any idea of what is or isn't between my legs. Next news. Inside Trump's backroom effort to lock up the nomination. The New York Times. Not long after the new chair of the Republican Party in Hawaii was elected in May, he received a voice-mail from none other than Donald Trump. "It's your all-time favorite president," Trump told the chair, Tim Dalhouse. "I just called to congratulate you." The head of the Kansas GOP received a similar message after he became chair. The Nebraska chair had a couple of minutes and a photo arranged with the former president during an Iowa stop. And the chair of the Nevada Republican Party, Michael Mick. Below are your comments. Trump's lawyers are arguing that the specific language of the Constitution argues that this requirement only applies to people in offices who are bound to support the Constitution. And the presidency is not one of those offices. Yes, this is the person who wants to be president but feels that his supporters are the same people that accused Hillary of locking up the 2016 nomination in under her NDED ways to keep Bernie out. For someone that keeps whining about a stolen election, it's apparent that Trump doesn't want Republicans to vote in the primary. As it stands now, polls have Trump and Biden effectively tied, meaning that there's an opportunity, some might call it a moral imperative, to sway the country away from the dystopian future in which Trump triumphs. Next news. Alabama lawmaker, assistant pled not guilty to federal charges. Associated Press. Alabama State Rep. John Rogers has pleaded not guilty to a charge of attempting to obstruct a federal investigation into an alleged kickback scheme involving state grants. The longtime lawmaker entered the plea Thursday in federal court. Last month's indictment accuses Rogers, a Democrat from Birmingham, and Kindle of offering additional grant money as a bribe to persuade a person to give false information to federal agents who were investigating possible kickbacks that prosecutors said were. Below are your comments. Oof, Jordan isn't looking too good these days. Grimace. Yoron was a rich kid. The son of a judge. Born and raised in a rich country, but still managed to bleep up his life. He had everything to be successful. His father ended up dying of a heart attack at a young age because of his son's mess. Why do we always have to read a few paragraphs into a story before we see it's a Democrat? If it's a Republican, his party affiliation is mentioned in the first sentence with his name and Ma. YBE a few times later. What is the score so far? Trump exaggerated his own personal property tax and has to defend himself from prosecution. Biden, Menendez and this clown have a gigantic extortion business going on and nothing will ever happen to them. Next news. In first call with Palestinian President Abbas, Biden discusses support for humanitarian aid to Gaza. Associated Press. President Joe Biden on Saturday spoke with Palestinian President Mahmoud Abbas and Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, urging the leaders to allow humanitarian aid to the region and affirmed high support for efforts to protect civilians. The weekend calls in Washington came ahead of Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin's announcement that the U.S. was moving up a second carrier strike group in support of Israel. Secretary of State Antony Blinken intensified diplomatic outreach across the Middle. Below are your comments. This is not a conventional war. Protection of civilians as Israel prepares for expected assault on Gaza is protecting the enemy who hides with civilians as shields. How can any country win a war this way? Israel did their part and gave 24 hours notice of their intentions. So, don't blame them if those terrorists and their sympathizers didn't listen. The policy of avoiding civilian casualties is what creates endless wars that bleep even more. End it quickly with overwhelming power while the enemy is concentrated in one area. Otherwise it never ends. War is horrific, and to be avoided. Peace is upheld with military power and pest control. We really light in the darkness. Next news. Efforts to form a new union have surged 58% since Biden became president, federal officials say. Bus. Innis Insider. The National Labor Relations Board said it fielded more than 2,500 union representation petitions in the last 12 months. Below are your comments. Lowest unemployment in decades. Now is the best time for workers to stand up for better pay, benefits. Core are making record profits and the only ones benefiting are C-suite executives and shareholders. But the workers are getting nothing. Look at the oil companies with record profits each quarter. Biden is not responsible for Americans' frustration with the politicians. There are only 83 of the 222 Republicans in the House who honored their oath to back our democracy on January 6. Only 83 Republicans in the House voted to transfer the power in accordance with the American voters. The rest. If unions are so great, why is there closed shop states? No one should be forced to join a sorry union to have a job. Competent works have no need for unions. They just exist to protect marginal workers. We need a new union, one without California, Oregon, Washington, Hawaii, Minnesota, Wisconsin, Mike Hegan, Illinois, Indiana, Pennsylvania, Maryland, Delaware, New Jersey, New York, Connecticut, Rhode Island, Massachusetts, Vermont, New Hampshire and Maine. Next news. House Speaker crisis is a symptom of historic Republican divisions. CNN. You might have thought it was a Democrat who recently said that House Republicans were in the same stupid clown car with a different driver. And while I'm sure many Democrats feel that way, it was our Republican Rep. Dusty Johnson who uttered that memorable phrase. Below are your comments. Conservatives can't govern. They can always say no, but they have no real ideas to help people. They boast about their tax cuts, but that is nothing more than giving away our hard-earned and paid tax revenues to their high-roller friends. It's time to vote out every Republicans, firemen, teachers. Differences in ideology within the Republican legislature continue to handicap the U.S. ability to fund action. For the security, health and welfare of all U.S. citizens, they need to put aside their narrow-minded differences and focus on the broader needs of the country as a whole. Whether some like it or Republicans are always blaming others and whining about government dysfunction, but they're too blind to see that they're the problem. They're the majority in the House right now, and the country has gone 10 days without a House Speaker because they can't stop bickering among themselves. Instead of next news. Senator Joe Manchin considers independent 2024 run, warns party system could be nation's downfall. As Associated Press. Joe Manchin of West Virginia has benefited from waiting to reveal where he stands as the swing vote in a chamber closely divided between Democrats and Republicans. "I'm having a hard time, I really am," he said while touring a Charleston metal stamping plant. Below are your comments. I've been saying this for a decade now. And it's not so much the two-party system that is the problem. It's the money, lobbying and influence it buys. These people are elected to serve the people, not become multi-millionaires. Forbes. Manchin has a net worth of $30 million, but makes $6 million per year from his coal business. As a senator, his salary is $210,000, which he uses for his bar tab, purchased $6.5 million dollar house in D.C. Drives around in a $360,000 Aston Martin DB11. For decades, Manchin has. The downfall of the two-party system is not the fault of the system, but the problem lies in the type of candidates that are produced by it. The single most important goal of any elected Washington official is to get re-elected. The best way to do that is to steer tax dollars to the people who might vote for you. Vote buying. Next news. Louisiana governor's race ignites GOP hopes of reclaiming position as Democrats try to keep it blue. Associated Press. As Louisiana's gubernatorial election commences Saturday, Republicans are hoping to reclaim the governor's mansion after an 8-year hiatus, while Democrats try to keep the coveted position in a state where Donald Trump garnered a majority of the votes during the last two presidential elections. 6 major candidates, 4 Republicans, 1 Democrat and 1 Independent, are vying for the seat that is being vacated by Gov. John Bel Edwards, the only Democratic governor in the Deep South. Below are your comments. Going to paper ballots won't make it safer, but will make the counting process long and tedious, and probably won't get done fast enough to stop the GQP from accusing them of manufacturing votes. If you want to actually get something done, vote blue. If you want chaos and no progress, vote red. A vote for the GOP is a vote for fascism and dictatorship. Never vote Republican, ever. Lying fascists to the core. Will this be a legitimate election, or will Republicans cry foul? Reject the racism and fascism in the GOP. Restore rights to women, minorities, and LGBTQ+. Vote the GOP out of government. Next news. Pence says, "I did my duty that day," on January 6, 2021. USA Today. Mike Pence spoke to New Hampshire voters in his USA Today town hall. See what he said. Below are your comments. He did his job and did it according to the Constitution, but since then he's refused to completely tell the truth and is supporting his fellow GOP members that he knows were helping Trump and would destroy our government to install Trump as dictator. Is he loyal to the Constitution and our government? You did your duty that day after asking everyone you could think of how you might be able to bypass the right thing to do in order to advance your desire for $, and finding out that you'd be breaking the law if you'd done anything different, Mike. We know who you are, and we don't like you. Please wait a moment. Pence wants to be thanked for doing what he was supposed to do. Obviously, Pence knew about this attack beforehand, as he was asked to break his oath to the Constitution by then-President Trump. Pence had the largest tax cut in Indiana history. Nice to brag about. How about this? Any relation to his tax cuts? Next news. Biden Deputy National Security Advisor lifts the fog of war in Israel. Politico. John Feiner, President Biden's principal Deputy National Security Advisor, reveals how the administration plans to balance the U.S.'s support for Israel against humanitarian concerns and the risks of widening the war. Below are your comments. No one in the Biden maladministration could lift the fog off of anything. Worry about humanitarian issues after the non-humanitarian Hamas is destroyed. Americans, chill. Biden, Dems, Kirby, FBI. Their media assured us, climate change is the worst, biggest, and most dangerous threat, more than war. News said FBI is being vigilant. No worries, Biden and company got our backs, again. Can you say Afghanistan, Ukraine, what's next? They will declare a holiday. The fog of war. Is AI now writing all of Politico's articles? Next we'll be talking the Hamas perfect storm. On Saturday, Hamas militants from Gaza invaded southern Israel. In a speech on Tuesday, President Joe Biden was swift to denounce Hamas. Next news. Biden speaks with families of Americans missing in Israel after Hamas attacks. CBS News. I think they have to know that the President of the United States of America cares deeply about what happened to them, President Biden said. Below are your comments. Biden to families. Who are you? Where am I? Who am I? Exclamation mark. I think they have to know that the President of the United States of America cares deeply about what's happened to them. Deeply. I think they want a president that scares the boldness out of the barbarians, like Reagan did Iran. Hostages released immediately at his inauguration. How many times did he tell them about losing his son? Biden did not praise Hamas like Trump did. Hey Joe, how many times did you look at your watch? I need to show them that I really care. Yay, right, that's why Hamas is still alive. Please subscribe to my channel. And if you like it, please thumbs up.